Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome back to Supreme Commander Forge Alliance Forever for a tip-top high-level ladder game played between two of the best players on Earth. Let's go ahead and get into player introductions on the map ZD Rasty, which is gonna get nasty. Starting with the blue player at the top and the pink player at the bottom. Actually, it's not ladder, it's a custom 1v1, but may as well be. As we check out the blue worst faction Seraphim going first land, and his name, of course, is the Beemaster himself, Blast Chilled. And over to the south, we have ourselves a pink Seraphim. Such a horrible mirror matchup today on the cards for us. A first land starting man who is filled with sadness. It is none other than Balance Slave, otherwise known as Grimplex. And with the player introductions out of the way, we can look at the map. And the map itself is very beautiful and also kind of eye-gougingly colorful. I don't like this color scheme, but to each his own. And of course, it is 25,000 reclaim, lots of mass, some water features to make life difficult for these players, and a ton of land for them to fight over, along with, of course, choke points, and a lot of them. So, as we get ourselves into the action, I would like to remind you to like and or subscribe. If your subscription button is red, shame on you. Turn it gray with some verbal abuse of that button. Or not verbal, what was it? Some generous abuse of that subscribe button. And also, while you're at it, you can go ahead and do some more abuse. Hit the like button. Maybe this will get recommended to more people. If you do that, maybe not. The YouTube algorithm doesn't know what it's gonna do next. I don't really have... This is being recorded for a live audience. We are now streaming the casts live over on YouTube. So if you subscribe, you can also maybe show up and see the casts before they're on the channel. And that is about all I have to spiel about. So let's talk about what these players are doing. We have two Selens out very early from Blast Shield, which is just one of the worst units in the game. It's not... I mean, I guess it's an okay scout, but it's like, you gave up having a lab for this. Really? Really? Was this worth your lab? I don't think so, guys. I don't think so. I think you all lost out on that trade. And of course, we have to look at what these players are doing with their commanders, as it will be very important. Grimplex getting a very early walk over to the western side to get past this water. Wants to set up a couple of land factories. Blast Shield instead going for a much earlier play on air and gonna get himself up a bomber here in the early game. Reclaim going very heavily in favor of Grimplex this game. He has over double, nearing triple the reclaim of his opposition already, and that means that overall he's just much further ahead in overall mass generated. But Blast Shield did opt for this bomber. I'm thinking maybe he's hoping to gain himself an advantage in killing off whichever engineer maybe is expanding to this western side for Grimplex. But he's going to be, unfortunately, not finding any engineers to kill, as Grimplex opting to send the comm, which is a slower but safer option. Remember to stay hydrated and drink, everybody. And now, with some scouting information, Blast Shield going to head in. Going to be able to get a juicy bomb off, possibly. Kill off 2, maybe 3 engineers. Bomb going to come down. 3 engineers are taken off of this mortal plane and shoved into the afterlife post-haste. Another bomb going to come down, going to be able to pick off another 2 engineers. That's 5 already for this bomber. This early focus on killing off the build power of Grimplex going to be very useful. Not quite able to get its next bomb off. Is it going to be able to drop in time? Does drop once more, and another engineer going to go down. 6 engineers for that bomber. Maybe it was worth it, but overall that bomber cost him a 1,000 mass total generation lead over towards Grimplex, who is really putting that into effect here. You can see he just has more units out onto the map, currently sitting at over 1,000 mass in units, whereas Blast Shield has not quite reached that threshold just yet. And that's just the land units, but Blast Shield does have air supremacy, at least for the moment, as he airlocks Grimplex. Or maybe not. Grimplex managing to micro the air just a little bit better. And both sides down to just a couple of interceptors. A few units over here to the west out from Grimplex, going to be heading up the northern side over here. A couple of engineers and mini mexes now at threat due to this roving band of 5 Thumbs and 2 Selins. And in the middle, Blast Shield going to stop any further encroachment by Balance Slave towards his lands, but he's going to have to deal with this very soon. Does he have a radar to spot it? Not quite yet, but it does seem that he has an idea that this is happening, does redirect a lot of his reinforcements out over there. Commander under attack from one Wayward Thumb. That Thumb's going to live a very short life. And, of course, these players going to continue to duke it out. Grimplex continuing to try and get some value, kills off a Mex, but decides he cannot push further into this territory. A little bit of mass going to be dropped over here, but I'm sure he's happy with the early aggression he's managed to get out. As over to the east, we have a T1 bomber trying to deal with some of this T1 spam out from Balance Slave. It's going to take a little while, but each bomb will get a little bit closer at killing off some of these tanks. And I don't think that Grimplex has the air to really come contest this, although looks as though he is going to go ahead and try to anyways. Blast Shield going to want to respond with his own interceptors, maybe kill off more interceptors than he loses. Bomber going to continue to try and drop bombs, but does go down to the interceptors out from Grimplex. Air fight currently going to be a 2 versus 3. But unfortunately for Grimplex, he's going to lose most of his interceptors right there to Blast Shield. Blast Shield looking a lot stronger over here on this western side now that he's gotten his production under control. Grimplex setting up a lot of production on the western side himself. And we continue to jostle for position and map control here. A drop out from Grimplex means he's going to be the first to be able to grab up the Mexes and the Hydro up on this plateau. And he is also going to drop over here to the far east. No transport yet out for Blast Shield, but is in the queue. Sorry for the moments of silence, having to deal with this cough that's been plaguing me ever since fall started, and these allergies keep cropping up for me. As over here in the middle, we have a bit of an engagement going on. I think that Grimplex is heavily outnumbered here. He's going to have to start falling back immediately, as the Thumbs out from Blast Shield just going to show up and smack him down. And Grimplex going to be unhappy with the way things are going on the ground over here on the western and central side. And over to the east, we have the commander of Blast Shield just being very aggressive, gaining a lot of territory for himself over here. He'll be happy with the way the game is progressing currently, as it does seem that he's just going to do a little bit better on map control, but Grimplex doing a little bit better on economy as of the moment, with a 2,000 mass generation lead and already up to 75 mass a second. By getting a few T2 mexes online. Needs to be careful though. Can't slack even in the slightest, as he is very much so behind on the ground game. Let's go ahead and check the numbers. 5.8 thousand mass in land units for Blast Shield versus Grimplex at only 4,000. That difference is going to show up in droves here As Grimplex is going to most likely struggle to get any aggressive damage done. He's going to be stuck on the defensive for the time being, but he will very soon be able to spam out some Ilshivas, which will help him on this eastern flank, but does have to worry about that Commander Overcharge, a very powerful asset for Blast Shield at the moment. Grimplex himself having his comm walk up a little bit. T1 PD over here going to be killing off these Thumbs, but the Thumbs may be able to grab it before they all die. Oh, it's going to be close. Nope, no cigar. And the PD does manage to get a rank of veterancy, so we're going to slowly heal up there. Over here to the east, a few units raiding for Blast Shield. They will be dispatched by the reinforcements out from this forward production hub. But he has a lot of units now going to be funneling their way through this choke point towards another production hub that Grimplex is trying to set up. Maybe wants to try and get that transport out of there before anything else happens, because this area is most likely going to be lost for Grimplex. As Blast Shield has taken a strong stance here in the middle of the map. He hasn't managed to get any T2 mexes up just yet, or he has, but only a couple. So that does mean he's going to be a little bit behind economically for the foreseeable future. But he still has map control. He still has the opportunity to deal some economic damage down on towards Grimplex. Grimplex trying to do much the same on the other side of the map, but not quite having the same success as his blue Seraphim opponent. Over here in the center of the map, Thom's going to be able to take down this point defense with probably some pretty easily. He's going to have to deal with those walls. Is going to fall back. Doesn't want to take too many losses to just one point defense, but has very handily cleaned up this entire central eastern area for Grimplex, and that's not going to feel so good. Blast Shield now catching up economically, only about 5 to 10 mass behind Grimplex. But Grimplex, I believe, is in a power stall currently. No, he's not. He's just losing so many T1 maxes, but replacing them with T2 on the back line. And with Ilshivas now out onto the field and starting to make their way over here to the east, he should be able to reclaim this area. Speaking of reclaim, 11,000 for Blast Shield versus 9.5 thousand for Grimplex. Blast Shield doing a little bit better at getting the natural reclaim along the back side of the map. Grimplex does have access to a huge reclaim field right here, which I'm sure he's about to be getting into. Over here to the west, a bit of an engagement going to happen. I think that Grimplex is going to win this, especially with his comm in the area. Can just walk forward with that and deal with those quite easily. To the far east, these Ilshivas going to be invaluable in pushing back Blast Shield's forces. He just doesn't have his own Ilshivas to contribute to this. He is up to T2, but his Ilshivas are coming out onto the field, and it does seem as though maybe he has more. Already up to 11 versus Grimplex is sitting only on 7, but they haven't made it to the front lines just yet. And Grimplex continuing to take damage on the periphery of his base. These outside mass extractors struggling. Grimplex working on a speed and range upgrade. Blast Shield finished up his own speed and range and going for T2 now. As another big fight breaks out here in the middle between a lot of T1 units, but Ilshivas are starting to show up for Blast Shield. And Grimplex doesn't really have any Ilshivas in the area, so that's going to start being a very cost-ineffective trade for him if he continues to keep up this fight. On the eastern side, much the same, but in reverse happening for Blast Shield. As here in the center, the fight wages on. Grimplex managing to get a lot of reclaim with these attack move engineers. Gonna lose them here, but they more than paid for themselves. Over to the east, the Ilshivas gaining a lot of value. Some factories going to be thrown up over here to the east as well. A lot of reclaim at stake over here. And a decent amount of reclaim over here, but most of it has been scooped up by Grimplex, which gets him back even on the reclaim game, which means he is overall ahead But Blast Shield has pulled ahead on total mass generation as he's gotten a lot more T2 mexes thrown up in the back lines and has managed to hold on to a lot more T1 mexes closer to the fronts. The map control starting to rear its ugly head as Grimplex is going to struggle a little bit. Grimplex does have speed and range finish up on his commander, but Blast Shield has speed and range and T2, which means he's just going to be in a better position overall here on the western side. T2 forward factory for Grimplex, going to start shooting out those Ilshivas to help with the defense here. And Grimplex going to pull his comm forward. Keep an eye, just make sure that these comms are overcharging. I believe both sides have built knee storage. I mean, we can just check. Yeah, both sides have built knee storage. Blast Shield has built multiple. Grimplex walks up. He's going to take a ton of damage from the Ilshivas and the units in general. His own units fell back a little bit too far, not really in range to support him. And the engineers for Blast Shield showing up in the backline, starting to reclaim the remnants of all the fighting earlier. But on the eastern side, we have a lot of factories going up and a lot more engineers going to show up over here to do a reclaim of their own. 10,000 in the area, and Grimplex showing no sign of slowing up here as he has a massive Ilshiva count advantage. Should be able to continue pressing forward here and maybe get some damage down on towards this production zone and maybe even get a lot of these mass extractors taken down. Both of these players cresting 100 mass a second here as we pass the 16-minute mark. And over to the west, Blast Shield continuing to just gain value on the commander. 1 rank of veterancy and 41 kills compared to 13 kills for Grimplex. Blast Shield still throwing out overcharges, getting more kills, probably using automatic overcharge there. A very useful tool. But there's just so many more Ilshivas in the area currently for Blast Shield, which means that Grimplex has to play very cautiously right now. More Ilshivas pressuring on the west, going to be answered by the reinforcing Ilshivas out from Grimplex. But on the east, the Ilshiva horde out from Grimplex going to be making strides. They're almost on top of that T2 production, but they need to be careful not to get focused down one by one here. Does start to fall back here. And Ilshiva getting into the back line is going to be able to pick up a couple of mexes of Grimplexes there for Blast Shield. Over here to the east, the Ilshiva's out from Blast Shield, starting to push back against Grimplex, but he still has a unit count advantage over here on the eastern side, and he's getting a ton of reclaim. 21,000 for both these players. They are neck and neck economically, but Grimplex falling behind a little bit in generation, but staying even because of reclaim numbers. And Grimplex walking forward, getting some juicy overcharges into those Ilshivas right now. And pushing forward with his own units. He's going to be able to get into this reclaim field himself, but Blast Shield doing a little bit better on that front. Over here to the center of the map, we have Ilshivas pressing on for Grimplex, but we have a lot of Ilshivas here in the middle for Blast Shield, along with that beefy T2 and speed gun comm. And the fight is just ever present. It's just such a meat grinder here in the middle between these two players. Just constant trading of units, constant battle for the reclaim even. As Grimplex walking and cheating towards the water just to be safe, but he gets a beautiful pincer movement, and Blast Shield has been outmaneuvered on the battlefield. He's going to be forced back, and this reclaim field almost assuredly going to be landing in the hands of Grimplex soon, as the Ilshiva count for Blast Shield collapses in front of him. That commander going to be very useful, but with all of these Ilshivas showing up on the eastern side of this fight, You have to imagine what he's going to be able to do. Some Volthus coming out. Grimplex needs to be careful, needs to make sure he does have interceptors to deal with in this, and he does have a horde of interceptors now making their way in. But these Ilshivas out from Grimplex going to be able to push westward and maybe get some more damage done, especially with the assistance of the commander. Blast Shield falling down to about half HP. Forced into the water. On the eastern side, though, Blast Shield making strides, making gains. But the difference is there's just not nearly as much reclaim to win over here. And right here, we're looking at 11,000 reclaim that almost assuredly is just going to go over towards Grimplex. Blast Shield sitting on a much stronger economy. And now on T2 air as well, going to be important for him. No T2 air for Grimplex thus far. Over to the east, the fighting rages on, but on the west, it's starting to look like a collapse for Blast Shield. He's sitting on a much better economy. He's pumping out a lot of Ilshivas. But Grimplex is getting a lot of value out of his units here, killing off some T2 mexes on the front. That's going to help even up the economic game here in short order. And Grimplex is ecoing behind this, has a lot of engineers out on the reclaim trail. And he's now up 6,000 reclaim over Blast Shield. As the Ilshivas continue to push forward, Blast Shield, his comm is still in a relatively dicey position. Needs to make sure he's not losing track of it here, but does have a decent force here to defend with. Wouldn't be surprised to see Grimplex send a few Ilshivas. If not, his whole force try and push around this side here. Avoid that stronghold that comm is able to throw together relatively quickly. Reclaim number is now skyrocketing in the favor of Grimplex, over 10,000 reclaim ahead. And nearly that much in total generation ahead. Nano repair now on the way for Blast Shield. He's going to try and use this commander as a fulcrum with which to exert heavy pressure onto Grimplex. He wants to force Grimplex to stop with the aggressive play. He wants to give Grimplex something where, give Grimplex kind of an ultimatum. It's going to be like a, hey, you gotta deal with this commander. You gotta deal with my force in the middle. And you can't afford to be throwing these units to the side if you want to keep your base. But Grimplex may just be too far ahead of him right now as far as overall unit count. As to the west, he's going to be pushing in, and there's a bunch of T2 mexes to claim for Grimplex. This is going to really help. He's not even evening up now. It's just going to skyrocket him even further ahead economically. As Grimplex starts to work on T3 land. T3 land also on the way for Blast Shield. I think he may even be ahead of Grimplex on that front. He is. We're going to see some Authams and maybe Sniper Bots coming out from Blast Shield to try and combat the overwhelming numbers that Grimplex has managed to throw together. Over to the east, we have a few T1 point defense thrown up, but they're not going to last very long. They're just going to buy time for Ilshivas to show up in response to this force. And Blast Shield doing exactly what I was claiming he would. He's managed to save his T2 mexes up there, and he's using this comm along with his main Ilshiva force here in the middle to exert enough pressure to drag Grimplex back. But it's only a temporary measure. It's like putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound. He just needs to address the fact that he's behind an overall unit count because he's currently sitting on 21,000 mass and units, whereas Grimplex is sitting on nearly 30,000. And that difference is really rearing its ugly head for Blast Shield right now. He's losing big fights here in the middle, which aren't good. This area is just going to lead to more reclaim for Grimplex. Already has engineers walking over. Speaking of reclaim, let's check in one more time as that lead has continued to balloon. It's still 10,000 advantage for Grimplex, but You have to imagine with him winning these fights and having engineers there first, that lead will grow. As Blast Shield has run out of natural reclaim, he does have this area over here which he can use. I'm surprised we don't see pros more often using walls, walling off this area or this one, or even somewhere like here would be very nice for either side. As the T2 production over here on the eastern side now under heavy attack. Grimplex wanting to shut down Blast Shield's efforts entirely on the east side of the map. And it's a disaster. Oh no. Blast Shield fails to defend his production core, and that means this entire area now vulnerable to Grimplex's advances. He does have Authams now coming out trying to plug the hole, but needs to rebuild that infrastructure over here on the eastern side, or just get enough Authams that he can ignore the fact that he doesn't have production over here. Over on the west, another push forward for Grimplex. He's just constantly applying pressure across the map, trying to find any weak point, and when he does, he presses it hard. And Blast Shield looking like he may start collapsing. He's lost a lot of that map control he had, hemmed into the corner of the map now. He's getting up T3 mexes to stay competitive, but Grimplex has his own T3 mexes, another one working right now on completion. And Grimplex going, instead of for Thoms, just for mass sniper bot. He now is throwing together a few Thoms, but starts off with a few sniper bots and one of those T3 mobile shields, the Athanas. And Grimplex pushing now far on the western side. Going to take some favorable trades. He's playing very well so far. Just needs to find that critical damage up over 50 mass a second, and reclaim numbers nearing 20,000 mass reclaimed over his opponent. And he's on top of all of that taking more efficient trades. It really does look like Blast Shield is just getting a little bit outclassed here. As we get further into the mid game, he was looking really good in the early game. The massive Autham force over here to the west gonna be very important, as it's the only real point of power on the map for Grimplex at the moment. And Grimplex just going to annihilate a few Authams with Ilshivas over here. There's a lot of reclaim in this area, and I don't think that Grimplex will very easily be able to get a hold of it. But almost all of the reclaim is just units that Blast Shield has lost. I mean, it's a rebate on his own units, but it's not something you want to see. It's a silver lining, but it's a dark one at that. As we can check in on the overall mass in units, 33,000 for Blast Shield versus 50,000 for Grimplex. And Grimplex just looking dominant in this game so far. Although he does need to worry. T3 air is a real and present threat. It's on the way for Blast Shield, and Grimplex doesn't even have T2 air yet. Something should be in the back of his mind. I'm sure he's done some scouting. No, he hasn't. Commander? Scouting on both sides has been a little bit lackluster. I mean, I can't really judge. My scouting would be 10 times worse, but you know. As Blast Shield continues to use this nanocom to great efficiency. 8,000 mass killed, working towards that 5th rank of veterancy. And Blast Shield just continues to hold out against all odds. Honestly, he's holding out with what feels like less forces. Grimplex has been pushing forward multiple times. He's gotten a huge advantage over here in the northeastern corner. But with the Othams now rolling out and showing up, these forces are going to be very even in mass distribution. 5,000 versus 5,000, so these Othams should most likely win that. As over here to the center of the map, Grimplex just gonna go for the jugular. He's going right for the main base of Blast Shield. Can Blast Shield produce enough Othams in time to just hold this off, or is this gonna just be a complete collapse for the Blue Seraphim? He's bringing the commander back. That nanocom gonna be pivotal. If he can hold this, it will be an important piece to play in holding it. As to the east, Grimplex has been shoved out. All of this reclaim going to be used to help bolster the defense over here to the center of the map for Blast Shield. His Othams are holding strong, but they're losing numbers little by little. The commander does come on to land and is going to fire some shots into all of these units. And it does look like Grimplex, his attack is just going to peter out here, and that's going to be 25,000 reclaim on the doorstep of Blast Shield. It's going to be brutal. It's nothing that Grimplex can't afford to throw away, as he has over a 25,000 mass advantage. And of course, we do have to take into account he's getting all of the reclaim from these fights earlier. But not something you want to see if you are Grimplex. He was really hoping that attack would have borne more fruit than it did. Didn't even manage to kill a single of the core mexes. As T3 Air about to finish up, we could see Strat Bombers become huge in this match, but T3 Air finished up faster for Grimplex. He just had such an economy to just shove that through. He didn't even really care. It wasn't even a speed bump for him. He just flew through at 60 miles an hour to T3 Air. Map control still plaguing Blast Shield. It's a thorn in his side, and he's down by a lot of mass generation, but that fight going so well for him has bought him a lot of breathing room. As Grimplex has to rebuild his forces and get ready for another big swing towards the blue behemoth in the north. Where'd all those sniper bots go? He had a few of them kicking around. They just die. Grimplex didn't micro his sniper bots. I guess so. And Blast Shield, he's just managing to hold on by a thread here, but that's all you need, and he has started a chicken! And that's going up relatively quickly. That could be huge. Does Grimplex have anything similar going on? If he does, I don't see it. Has a Strat Bomber out onto the field. Let's go ahead and track its progress. He can manage to get some big gains here with the Strat Bomber. That could be huge. But most of the mexes are now turning T3 in the base of Blast Shield, which means the Strat Bomber are going to have a lot harder time doing effective damage. In comes the Strat Bomber. And it's going for something. It's going for some build power and to get some damage done on the power grid. But there's already 2 T3 power generators. If he keeps bombing the power generators, that could be huge. But a shield going to be thrown up with haste. Going to go for the build power, building the shield, and get some damage down onto the power generators. 1 or 2 more bombs is all Grimplex needs to get a huge victory here. You have to imagine that there's a lightning tank being thrown up very soon. And oh no, it's a disaster for Blast Chilled. He loses that power generator, and that's going to throw him immediately into a power stall. And Blast Chilled suffers critical damage, even loses the T3 HQ there. And that means that Grimplex is going to have total air supremacy on top of the already dominant ground showing he's shown so far. 3 ranks of veterancy from that for Grimplex. Does have a bit of a whiff with that bomb. But reconstruction has already begun, as Blast Shield probably has to pause all of his factories and throw everything into rebuilding right here. Strat Bomber coming back around, gonna go for the economy on the plateau. Gets another T2 mechs, 14,000 mass killed. Wouldn't be surprised to see more Strat Bombers thrown into the mix now for Grimplex. T3 Pigeon gonna finish up relatively soon to help stabilize the economy of Blast Chilled. And over to the east, the sniper bots are sniping, but Grimplex going for a bit more of a sneaky attack this time as he tries to work his way through the back lines, but Blast Chilled already sitting and waiting. He's ready for this eventuality. Grimplex has started his own chicken, but it's building a lot slower. Although the construction on the chicken for Blast Chilled has all but halted. Othams in the river were forced back by Blast Chilled's units. But another huge attack is now forming in the middle for Grimplex. He's looking poised to deal a death blow down on towards the Beemaster Blast Chilled, as he's sitting on over a 100 mass income advantage. It's looking hopeless for the Blue Seraphim. Let's get a cliffside view of the coming battle. And Grimplex doesn't take it. As Blast Chilled sits in his base and prays, and Grimplex can't find his footing to overrun. Wow, that's gonna be a T3 HQ up on this hill. Interesting. Don't know why, but nevertheless, I find it interesting. Both sides flirting with fighting each other here. But Grimplex not confident enough to just throw his units at the enemy just yet. Strat Bomber's still out and trying to deal damage. It's trying to kill off this Ilsheva, it would seem. Headshot. Alright. As in the center of the map, we have a push now. He's going to try and take out these periphery structures. The perimeter of Blast Chilled ever being eaten away at. Loses the Hydro, loses a T3 factory. And that factory on the cliff is going to build Sathanuses. One of my favorite units in the game. Very cute. The artillery doggos of FAF. I'll have to get a look at that when they do come out. But Blast Shield still managing to hold against the odds. And his chicken is about to complete. But Grimplex also has his own chicken, but it's building so slowly, he hasn't really committed too many resources to it. The reclaim field here growing astronomically large, and with the chicken's completion, I don't know if it'll be enough to deal with the fact that there's multiple strat bombers on the field, and this is a large T3 force. But the chicken gonna start pushing all of this back. T3 mexes will be going down, as Grimplex will be forced to retreat in the face of this experimental opposition. And Grimplex has finished his own experimental? Where? What? Where is his experimental? Am I crazy? Oh, there it is. He was building 2 chickens at once because he forgot about this one. And now he's building an awassa. That is, oh my lord. He's not building an awassa, he's building an awassa. And yeah, look, little cute artillery doggo. Oh, he was about to stand up. So cute. We'll watch this one come off the line. I know that there's experimentals probably about to fight. See, look, little artillery doggo, so cute. I may be biased against the Seraphim. They have a few good units. And Blast Shield, he's working on another chicken. He's using all of the reclaim in the game into experimental spam. He's decided that mass chicken is his only way to win. He's calling on Colonel Sanders, praying to the God of Kentucky. Because if he wants to win right now, he's got to use the power of the chickens. But unfortunately, chickens often die to those who wash asses. Because the awassa, ass washer, is going to be quite the threat to be dealt with. It's going to be chicken on chicken violence. It's gonna be a peckin' party. And who will come up on top? We'll know here in the next couple of minutes. The second chicken gonna complete, a third queued up. Blast Shield just gonna go for broke with nothing but experimentals. Needs to attack before the awassa is finished. I don't think he has any knowledge of that awassa. Yeah, he has no way of knowing, but these high-level players know how much they love their flying bombers of doom. So I would imagine it's in the back of his mind that that could be an option. The next chicken going up just as quickly as the last. I'm surprised Grimplex hasn't gone for more air-to-ground firepower. I mean, I guess he is going for an awassa, which is a hell of a lot of air-to-ground firepower, but still. And look, the Sathonuses! They're just having a good time. As we wait for the eventual clash between these two titans, I'm going to speed it up a little bit because both of them seem more than content to sit back. Seems that Blast Shield wants 3 chickens before he pushes forward, and Grimplex wants his awassa to finish. The 2 chickens of The two chickens of Blast Shield starting to inch their way forward. But not daring to outright assault. Grimplex, as of the moment, another chicken gonna complete. Can he afford to build this? No, he really can't, but he's gonna do so anyways. The awassa has finished. And Grimplex going to move forward. He should know about the multiple experimental front on his front door, or threat on his front door. First bomb gonna drop, and that's gonna be a big one. Both chickens fall by about 10% of their HP. And that damage is going to be attritional. There's going to be very little that can be done about it, but that's a lot of lightning tanks as well to deal with. Another bomb takes out a bunch of Thoms. As Grimplex pushes forward, and it's almost assuredly going to be Grimplex winning. I don't see how he combats the overwhelming power that Blast Shield has presented towards him. He's gonna finish up another chicken. He'll still have a chicken advantage. The mobile artillery on the hill getting a lot of value, in fact. But in comes the awassa to drop a bomb on that front. Not gonna get too much. The anti-air firing into that awassa as we speak, bringing it down to 15,000 HP. Looks like it's going to come in for another bomb. Wants to kill off all of those Sathanuses. And does manage it along with some of the AA. Is there a sniper bot in here? Oh, there is. Just one. Othams managing to make their way around the back. I didn't even notice this, but Othams have kind of waged a guerrilla war over here, hitting the infrastructure, killing off a lot of T3 mexes, which brings Grimplex behind Blast in overall economy. These few Othams have just done so damn much. What is Grimplex doing? He's had so much more economy for such a long time. At a certain point, just snipe Blast Shield if you can't fight him on the ground. You've had air control for such a long time. Looks like that might be on the cards. Does have 5 strap bombers and an awassa. Comms have been killed with much, much less. But as long as the awassa lives and isn't just shot down, it's gonna be a ever-present fight. It'll keep Blast Shield hemmed into his base. Grimplex rebuilding those mass extractors he lost. And the awassa gonna be chased down by a bunch of ASF. Is the micro good enough? The ASF are gonna shoot down the awassa, but he's gonna lose all of his ASF in turn. And Grimplex pulls back with the strap bombers. There's still 2 chickens defending versus 1 for the attack of Grimplex, but Grimplex may just no longer be able to attack. He's down on economy. Blast Shield has just been this roach that won't die. And Grimplex looking like he may have managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory with no awassa. There's no existential threat towards Blast Shield other than a strat snipe. And Grimplex control Ks. That feels a little bit premature. He was not necessarily outright losing this fight here in the middle. But that's gonna be that. Thank you all for watching. You've been beautiful. Thank you to the patrons and channel members. Thank you to the people who have watched live. You all are beautiful. This is Willow signing off. Make sure you like, subscribe, and maybe join the channel membership or Patreon if you want to support me more.
But if I lay down